Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve? We've been off for a bit of time. My fault, most of it, but it's good to be back and up and running. How's it going?
It's great to be back, and it's a bit of springtime here, so I'm very happy as well.
Absolutely. Enjoying that that subtle change in weather as we go towards summer. Now, it was about a month or so ago since we did the last one, and I thought, well, the last episode, well, you know, the latest from Trump world, that's got to cover it, right? But no, it's got to keep on steamrolling through with even something even more, I don't know if escalated is the right word, but there was a certain tone to a lot of what happened in the past week that I think is worth covering. And just to quickly go through it all, because, you know, you can sort of lose track. It's usually about a year's worth of news in 1 week.
Yeah.
But I think it started with the John McCain funeral, where you had a whole bunch of the old guard, so to speak, get up and talk about, you know, we're Americans, we know how to, this is what we should be, and blah, blah, blah. And McCain exemplified all of that. Then there was the New York Times op-ed that claiming to supposedly be someone senior in the White House, basically saying that they're saving the country from Trump from the inside. Was it one person? Was it a group of them? Is it actually a senior person? Who knows? You would think the New York Times would be doing this if it was a senior person, but you never know with these things. I watched the Obama speech that he gave in Chicago, where for the first time he blatantly called Trump out by name, although he sort of referred to him as a symptom of the underlying problem as opposed to being the problem, which is probably accurate. And then there was the Bob Woodward book that, for all intents and purposes, all the excerpts were starting to come out this week, and that he, regardless of whatever his motives were for doing it, he's across the board being acknowledged as someone who doesn't make stuff up, a bit like maybe previous books that have come out.
Yeah, well, he's probably one of the few that you could trust on something like this.
Well, given he did all the Watergate stuff.
Last of the old school.
That's right. So it just seemed like there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened this week. Oh, and have to throw in the amusing bit where Trump said that he fell asleep during Obama's speech, and if he ever wants to fall asleep, he just listens to Obama. But he's always good for those sound bites. But what I found was interesting is that I think it, I don't know what exactly it is. We can argue maybe, and we can probably do this now, about did anything actually change, or was it just more noise? But it just felt a bit like something was trying to voice itself in the collective societal unconscious or something this week that was a little bit different than what's been going on previously. At least that's how it came across to me, that there are a lot of people potentially who are concerned with what's going on right now.
Well, I think that goes without saying. We've known there have been a lot of people concerned for the last 2 years, but I don't think it's changed anything, and I guess it's just my perspective, but well, you know, we had Primary Colours. I don't know if you remember that book that was the inside expose on White House workings.
Yeah.
This is just another one. Is it real? Maybe it is. Maybe it's just somebody who knows they can make a buck by writing this stuff. I don't think you can tell anymore. I agree with Trump. It's all fake news.
It's interesting, regardless of whether it's fake news or not. What is interesting is that it's painting a very consistent picture.
Oh yeah.
So the Woodward book, that Fire and Fury book from earlier in the year that probably wasn't considered as credible. The op-ed that's come out, a lot of what you know, the so-called quotes that come out of senior officials about what's going on inside. If it's a hack job to just get at Trump unfairly, they're doing a very good job of being very consistent about it across many different people.
Well, I guess when I use the term fake news, I'm using it about the reaction not necessarily about the content. So what I find interesting is I looked into Woodward's book and I heard an interview with him about it. No, I haven't read it, but of course I think his record goes far enough to suggest we could trust him not to do fake news.
Yeah.
And he's got hundreds of hours of recordings of interviews with people in the White House. It's good old school reporting. And there's no question that there's a battle there with Trump. And, you know, some people might say it's to fight his amorality.
Yeah, that's his problem.
Word.
That was his problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, his lack of direction and et cetera. But the truth is that I think you'll find over time the bureaucracy or the administration always, you know, whenever a leader, you know, tries to do things that perhaps aren't really in their thinking, there's always going to be a bit of pushback. Probably not to the degree we're seeing now. And that's probably gone up a notch or two inside the White House because Trump's so aggressive and uses so much bluster and force to get things happening. But, you know, now here's me with my conspiracy hat on. So I think Woodward's stuff is probably spot on, and what he's captured going on is 100%. You know, but if you're going to be a publisher selling his book, you might not even tell Bob, but you might get someone to write a story that pretends that, you know, it's an op-ed piece by somebody in the know, and you just take the stuff that's already in Bob's book and just write it up in a way that helps you sell more of Bob's book.
It is true. Yep, absolutely.
That's complete fake news on my behalf, but, you know, I wouldn't put it past people.
Well, the thing is with that op-ed, you just don't know. The only thing you're really going by that it's from, say, a real person is that the New York Times said so.
Well, why don't they come out and say who they are? In this modern age, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Are they so desperate to keep their job that they're too afraid to say something, except unless they're anonymous? Well, but, you know, they're saying they're working actively against him as if they're saving the planet. Well, if you're Superman, come out and say you're Superman. Yeah. Don't be Clark Kent.
Yeah, that's true. But just an interesting sidebar with this that is actually something I've also heard discussed across Woodward's book and the op-ed. There's this combination idea of senior officials deliberately taking actions to prevent Trump from enacting a decision, whether it's blatantly doing it and contradicting it, like Mattis apparently was told or ordered by Trump to, I can't remember what it was something in South Korea, and Mattis just said, yep, no worries, no problem, Mr. President, then walked out the door and said to all of his people, yeah, no, we're not doing that. But I mean,
who knows, the irony might be that this is exactly what happens in Trump Corp.
Yeah, exactly.
Trump says something and his next people go, oh, it's a bad idea, we won't do it.
But what about just this simple idea that how can these people literally be doing this because it's setting a dangerous precedent? The president was voted in and his people are not doing what he wants. You know, is that setting a bit of a precedent for later on, where, you know, the chief executive is not obeyed by his own people?
It's a really good point.
Yeah,
I would. Does that not already happen in business?
But this is a public service, of course. This is a little bit different.
So you're saying they are treasonous?
Well, I don't know. This is. I'm only posing the question. It's not that. I think the argument is that they weren't voted in. So who are these people to come in and contradict what he wants to do?
So we replace them all with machines.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's back because I think this is the nature of the question.
Yeah.
Are they acting improperly or are they doing the right thing? And can they be doing both of those things at the same time?
Well, it could be argued that, for instance, maybe they are doing the right thing from Trump taking some crazy decision on this instance. But what happens, the next president comes along and maybe they are good at what they're doing, but you've got some dodgy people, not that I'm expecting that this would happen, but hypothetically, you get some dodgy people in there that course correct.
That aren't the president.
That course correct that person's good decisions. You know.
Well, that's right. But you know, it's, and I'm not siding with Trump here at all, but where's the evidence that any of his decisions have been really bad? He's a really bad person, perhaps, and maybe he's not the sort of person that we really want leading America, but he's representative of at least those 51% who voted, or just over 50% of who voted.
I guess those senior officials would be saying that the reason why you haven't seen those bad decisions is because they've stopped him.
Why don't they just impeach him?
Yeah, well, that's the big question there.
I'm not defending him, but I'm asking these questions because none of this adds up.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm confused.
Well, that's the thing, and the other, like you said, I'd probably be more along the lines of if you feel the need to be anonymous with this sort of stuff, why don't you just come out and say it? The only thing you're going to lose is your job. But as someone on a news show pointed out that I saw, you'll just be getting a nice big fat check from a book publisher.
And you'll probably get rehired in a couple of years' time.
So there's no lose-lose. But I guess the other thing that they would say is that they have to stay there because it's like, well, what happens if I'm not there? You know, kind of thing to keep this sort of stuff in check. They're all questions that go circling round and round and round. And like you said, it's all very confusing and what the hell's really going on kind of thing. Or maybe it is exactly what it is, just a confused state of messiness that doesn't make any sense and is completely illogical.
Well, that's right. And I think if there is anything you want to say about what Trump's done, the fact that it's dissolved to this level and the administration is quite obviously rebelling against him, but appearing quite undisciplined in the way they're doing it, then maybe that is a reason to really be worried about his presidency. Yeah,
exactly. I just want to finish up on one thing, which was Obama's speech that he gave in Chicago, and the fact that he effectively stepped back into the political fray by being so direct, and he's not necessarily someone who, you know, comes out with direct statements, and obviously he wanted to honour that idea of not criticising, you know, his successor like previous ones had not done. So I just found it interesting that he's kind of stepped back into the fray in the way he has, because he's been criticised for not speaking up enough on the Democratic side. But the one thing that I thought that was interesting, that the message that he said was, you know, don't wait for a messiah. If you're really unhappy about something, you don't tweet about it, or you don't, hashtag it or something like that. You go out and you vote for it. And you do whatever it takes to make your vote count. And it's like a civics lesson almost for a new generation of people coming through, that if you really want to change this sort of stuff, you better get in there.
Well, fair play to Obama on that. I mean, he's copped a hell of a lot from Trump since Trump's been in president. He's maintained that silence, and he's come out and he said exactly the right thing. You know, Trump's in. He got in. Doesn't matter how he got in. He got in. He's doing what he's doing. You know, vote him out at the next chance if you're not happy. Get your friends, get your mum, your dad, your sister, your brother, your sons, your daughters. Mobilise them, get them there, vote, and get him out if you're not happy. That's why all this talk about, you know, how bad the administration is and all those other things. Well, there's a lesson in this for everyone, everywhere in the world. And that's to take voting very seriously and to consider who the candidates are and the sort of leadership that you want for your country.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Steve, we might finish on that note, and we'll check in when the latest batch of news seems to hit. I still think it's something worth covering because it's just so exceptionally unusual to the of what's actually happening, and the fact that it changes so dramatically week by week.
Well, this is changing our culture. There'll be no going back from the Trump years.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so don't forget our website, SciTechCulture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. Subscribe to our YouTube, Vimeo channels, RSS feeds, and you can have a look at all of our content on the website, and we hope you enjoy it. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.